Hello, it's Rob Yates here, and welcome to We Get Outdoors, the podcast, my weekly episode. And today we're going to talk about this, my Gore-Tex jacket. We're going to talk about, is Gore-Tex brilliant or crap? Am I dry or am I wet? And why am I stood here with a hose pipe over my head?
So for the past 30 years of my life, I've been working at the cutting edge of the adventure sports industry. Originally leading expeditions and explorations all over the world, whether it's guiding others or going on them personally myself, in fact, every continent apart from Antarctica. Then transitioned into training over 3,500 guides, expedition leaders and coaches in the adventure sports world across North America, Africa and Europe. And today I spend my time working with owners of adventure sports businesses, helping them build their business into something that's a legacy, something that's sustainable, something that is REI and Amazon proof. Shh, just don't tell them. But one of the hot topics that we often get on programs and on trips is what kit should we bring? How much money should I spend on kit? Is there a specific brand? How does this work? How does that work? And one of the hot topics is Gore-Tex, waterproof clothing. Is this Gore-Tex jacket that I've got in my hand here, that's mine, is it a brilliant thing? Or is this whole idea of Gore-Tex a con? Do you really need it? Do you not? Because when you go out there to go and look to buy a waterproof jacket to hang out in the outdoors with, the reality is you can spend anything from $30, $25 in a second-hand store, all the way through to $600, $700, $800 or $1,000 on a waterproof jacket made by one of the leading manufacturers. They've all got different claims, different badges, different theories. And one of those things that everybody talks about is Gore-Tex. So first of all, I want to talk about what Gore-Tex is and what it isn't. So Gore-Tex is not a waterproof material. Gore-Tex is the membrane that sits as a layer of this material. So this material here has got three layers. It's got an inner layer. It's got its Gore-Tex layer, the middle layer, and then it's got the outer layer, the waterproof layer. So Gore-Tex is a membrane. And Gore-Tex is a special membrane because Gore-Tex lets moisture, mostly steam, evaporation, body heat, etc., out through the material without letting water in the other way, which means you can be in the pouring rain exercising hard and the pouring rain won't come into your jacket as long as it's sealed up and clipped up and zipped up properly, obviously. And yet a high proportion of the sweat and moisture that your body produces will go out. Now, the benefit of that, of course, is that moisture kills, dampness kills. And so if you were wearing a jacket that didn't allow moisture to go out through the material or to leave the jacket in a way, you're going to end up with sweaty base layers stuck to your skin, which is fine while you're exercising, but when you stop, you then end up with that sweaty layer next to your skin. That then gets cold, and eventually you may end up getting ridiculously cold or to the point of having hypothermia if those base layers aren't changed. So Gore-Tex, is it a con or is it brilliant? Well, to understand the answer to that question, first of all, we have to go and think about, like, how is it that Gore-Tex really, really works? So one of the ways that Gore-Tex works is it needs to have a greater internal pressure than external pressure, because this moisture has to leave the material from one environment inside the jacket to the other environment outside of the jacket. And so Gore-Tex kind of falls apart when, or not falls apart, but stops working as well when you are in a wet, humid environment, exercising hard, and then you're putting a human environment inside the jacket. And we end up with an equality of pressure then. And then Gore-Tex doesn't work that well because there's nothing for nothing can go in either direction then because the pressure is equal on either side. But most of us don't tend to operate and work in that environment. So for that environment to be true, you'd have to be exercising relatively hard while wearing your jacket zipped up. And the temperature inside the jacket is going to be roughly that of body temperature, which in centigrade is about 37 degrees centigrade, maybe a little bit higher than that if you're exercising. And so then this wouldn't work if then you were exercising in humid 37 degree, let's say a rainforest, for instance, as a place where you probably will find that hot temperature and that level of moisture. Then the Gore-Tex won't work. However, most of us don't operate in those environments. For most of us, the place in the outdoors we go into is usually, especially when we're going to want to wear a jacket like this, is usually cooler than what it is that we can build up inside the jacket from our own body heat. So then Gore-Tex becomes really, really, really useful. Gore-Tex isn't the only breathable material on the planet. Many other brands, Patagonia, Columbia, have their own version of Gore-Tex. Just Gore-Tex is the one, I guess, that's been around the longest and probably the one that works the best. Now, other limitations of Gore-Tex. Now, I have a Gore-Tex dry suit for kayaking with, and it's brilliant, by the way. However, where it's not brilliant and where I personally would believe another material would be as useful or maybe would bring the price point of my dry suit down is the Gore-Tex when it's sandwiched between my base layers and fleeces. You then have the Gore-Tex material and then I have my life jacket on the outside. My life jacket is quite tight against me, covering this area here of my body on my front and on my back. And obviously then my life jacket doesn't allow that material really, really, really to do its job because there's nowhere for that water to get out through and to because it's still trapped in part of this warm bubble, which is my life jacket. In fact, any of you have worn a life jacket and been kayaking, you put your hands inside the armholes of your life jacket. Actually, it's really, really warm and body heat in there. So I would argue that Gore-Tex in terms of dry suits is brilliant, but I'd say that there's certain places where Gore-Tex isn't really needed, and one of those is underneath where the life jacket is. That's also the area where you're going to sweat the most. But is it a con? Is it a con? Well, I think it's a con if a Gore-Tex jacket is the thing that prevents you from getting in the outdoors. You see, with sensible clothing strategies, like what materials you use for your base layer and your mid layer, and with sensible wearing of a jacket, so is it zipped up permanently the whole time? Are you using the pit zips? How are your wrist bands velcroed up or whatever it is? I think that you could get a 70, 80, 85% as good a job from a jacket that's not of this price point and not of this standard. And that's especially important because if you're sat there thinking, I need this $500, $600 jacket, whatever it might be, to go in the outdoors, and you buy it for yourself, and then you can't afford to go in the outdoors, you can't afford the gas, you can't afford the vacation time, or the campsite fees, the tents, or whatever else it may well mean. Actually, I think that the Gore-Tex jacket isn't serving its purpose. I believe it's a con. It's getting in your way of going and getting in the outdoors. It's capitalism, and I love capitalism, but it's capitalism getting in the way of your enjoyment. And the reality is that for the price of a Gore-Tex jacket, let's say in a really expensive one at about $600, for the price of a $600 jacket, you can go to something like a military surplus store, Craigslist, Decathlon, a bunch of other stores that you find around the world. You can actually equip yourself completely from top to toe for $600 to go mountaineering. Yes, the kit's going to probably be secondhand. Yes, it's not going to be that fashionable. Yes, it may not work quite as well as a Gore-Tex jacket, but can you get out and can you go and enjoy yourself? Yes, you can, and you can do it safely as well. So, Gore-Tex, brilliant or con? Depends upon your budget, depends upon the environment you're going to be working in, depends upon how long it is you want to get out there for, and depends upon how fashion conscious you are. Many people get away with a oilskin jacket and do for years and years and years and years and years and never ever bother with one of these. So you make your choice. I will tell you, however, as I close, the most upsetting thing I've ever had happened is I bought a new Gore-Tex jacket, not this one. And I was wearing it, it was cold, it was a bit rainy, and I was using it as a wind barrier as much as anything else. I'm sat there, the fire is roaring, I'm talking to friends, and a spark goes up in the air. And suddenly I feel this burning. And a big, big, big spark had flown up in the air and landed on my Gore-Tex jacket and put a hole in it. And to do that to a brand new $600, $700 item, that just makes me want to weep. There's no warranty on planet Earth that will cover that. So have a think. Do you really need it? I don't know. If it's the thing that stops you, then I suggest you don't. Will it make you more comfortable in the right environment, doing the right activity? Hell yeah. But there's plenty of other options out there. I hope that's interesting. I hope that's of use. If you've got any thoughts, knowledge, or experience about Gore-Tex itself, please go and put those in the comments below. Please share this channel, subscribe and ring the bell, and why not hit that like button whilst you're here. My name's Rob Yates. I get outdoors, you get outdoors, we get outdoors. Let's go get outdoors.